Welcome to the Tom Matt Show. You are walking through the front door of the retirement zone. And now, your host, Tom Matt.
Last week, Doug Resige was back, Hunter non-Hunter. Funny that we're talking about Hunter non-Hunter because I got another Hunter coming on here. But we're not doing Hunter. We're going to do some law talk here pretty quick here. But Doug was there, renewing our spirit, the big show all around us. That was a Doug title. He came up with that one. Pretty sweet. I mean, Doug is done well with, he scored some of his game, and he's actually sent me a text and said, hey, do you want some venison? I'm just like, dude, bring it. You know, I'll take all of it. You know, we'll eat it up for sure. So that was a good show. Check that one out. It's on the website. Go get the podcast if you missed any of that or didn't catch it at all. Today, I'm going to feature White Law, Find Your People. Jamie White, new sponsor to the show, friend. We've been friends for a little while now through Dave DeMarco, through all of our networking, through all these things. And I've just told Jamie pre-production, everybody, that the one spot on the radio program that I've always wanted to embrace is getting a competent firm for law talk. And how do we deal with all of these different issues when it comes to hiring an attorney? Why do you need an attorney? All these kinds of things. So we're very fortunate to have somebody of Jamie's expertise. His firm is fantastic. White Law is doing great things. Plus, the best thing is he's a Spartan. I mean, Jamie White is the founder of White Law PLLC, specializes in criminal defense and civil litigation. Jamie's an experienced trial attorney, having tried numerous homicide, serious felony cases to completion in various Michigan courts. I don't think you want to mess with this guy. I think you want him as your friend. That's why you want to listen to this program. Jamie graduated from Michigan State University College of Law, Go Green, attended Michigan State University undergraduate work, Go Green twice. He's licensed to practice in the state of Michigan, Federal Eastern District of Michigan, and Federal Western District of Michigan, and in the United States Supreme Court. So basically, he's the man. Jamie's a member of the State Bar of Michigan, we would hope so, and the American Bar Association and the Ingham County Bar Association. I could read this 4-page bio, but let me let Jamie just do his own talking because I'm excited, very excited to talk. We don't know where we're going with this thing, everybody, but I want you to get to know Jamie White and what White Law is all about. So I want to hand this over to my new friend, Jamie White. Welcome to the show, Jamie.
Hey, Tom, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, sir. So I appreciate you coming in. I've as I told you, I'm really interested in all of the aspects of law. Usually in the first segment, Jamie, we do a This Is Your Life kind of thing, talk about your family, kids, mom and dad. And this whole episode, I really think is going to be pretty fun because we can talk about your journey through school, how you did this, because I'm all into the higher ed, the journey into higher ed and out of higher ed and how to become a professional as well, supporting our Spartans, doing all those good things. But so please go right ahead. You got plenty of time in this segment to talk about your family, and then we'll have some more fun throughout the show. Go right ahead, my friend.
Yeah, thanks, Tom. Well, I love to talk about my family. I've been married for 18 years, going on 19 soon. And we have 4 children. We have a daughter and 3 boys. The 3 boys are still in high school. One actually just is about to graduate, and he got accepted to Michigan State, Go Green.
Sweet.
And we live here in East Lansing. My wife and I, we met. It's a funny story. People think we met at Michigan State because she was there as well. And that's not the case. We I was in law school, and I had broken up with a girl. And one of my law school friends kept saying, I want you to meet this girl. I want you to meet this girl. And I'm from Jackson, Michigan. And she said, she's from Jackson. I said, no, I don't want to meet any girl from Jackson. And she stayed on me for about 6 months, Tom, and was just relentless. And so I called my brother who lived down there, and he was a manager at a local store. And I said, do you know Christine Scott? He's like, oh, yeah, man, she's gorgeous, but she won't talk to anybody. I'm like, oh, that's perfect. I said, that's perfect. And so, here we are 19 years later. Again, I grew up in Jackson. It was a great experience. I really enjoyed it.
Where'd you go to high school?
Yeah, I went to Jackson High School.
Oh, you went to Jackson High. Okay. I know it well. Yeah. Sure.
Went to Jackson High School, had a great time, played sports down there, ended up actually joining the Army Reserves to pay for college. I was from a pretty depressed economic background. We weren't poor, but, certainly the money for college wasn't there. So, I was on a bus, 17 years old, 10 days after I graduated high school on my way to Oklahoma. And that helped me pay for college. So, it's been that's my story as far as family is concerned and how I got through school. The law school thing was a totally different experience. It was grueling. I was a full-time employee at the Ingham County Prosecutor's Office, and I was taking care of a little girl at the time. And so I'd work from 8 to 5 and then study from 6 to sometimes midnight. And that went on forever. It kept me disciplined, but it was a challenge for sure. And then ultimately I got through it and graduated.
So you're kind of a non-traditional. I love this story and the Army Reserves thing. Jamie White's our guest today, everybody. White Law, Find Your People. The reason I called it this was because you need to have professionals in your life that can really help you. When you hit these spots, you need to have those pros that can really make the difference for you. Just getting back into the Army Reserve thing, as you know, I told you about my journey into higher ed. Would you encourage upcoming college students to go that route? Because it sounds like it was successful for you. Would you encourage students to consider that?
I'm torn on that, Tom. I would say that make sure you do your due diligence. The Army was a unique experience for me. I was young, so everything was new at the time. In hindsight, at the age of 52, it'd be a cakewalk. But when you're young, it's something that you really want to do your homework on. One thing, quite honestly, that happened to me was the recruiters had made certain assertions as far as what sort of benefits I would get. And, those turned out to be not quite what they said and strung out over a significant period of time. So I would say just do your due diligence and make sure that you speak to somebody other than the recruiter. Other than that, it's a great opportunity. They certainly have increased the benefits since I was in, 30 years ago. We do live in a world though, where, deployment is likely and, there are some hot spots in the world. So again, I just think it's something that young people need to think through, but it's certainly not a bad option.
When you talked about grueling in law school, now you must have been not a non-traditional student, and as I was a non-traditional student as well at Michigan State. That's a big deal. Can you take a couple minutes just to encourage even growing older adults, but maybe young people who didn't finish, but they want to go back and just kind of give us a couple minutes of your opinion on non-traditional education and encouraging people to do those types of things?
Yeah, it was really great. I could have never just gone full time to law school during the day. I had too many obligations and needed to work. And I enjoyed, the night school, quote unquote, process in law school because everybody was in the same boat, right? Everybody was coming to the table with professional experience. Many people were still working, maybe a little more motivated than some of the day students because, oftentimes a little more mature. And there for one reason, and that's to enhance their professional career. So I really enjoyed the non-traditional route. It created a little more flexibility too, as far as the amount of credits that need to be taken in a particular term. So it worked for me. It's not for everybody, but if you're a professional and you want to enhance your career, there are options. Whether it's the Broad College of Business where you can get your MBA on the weekends, or Michigan State Law School where you can. Most law schools have these options, but certainly Michigan State has the option for folks to go to school at night and obtain their law degree.
All right, let me reset this thing, everybody. That was a great feed from Jamie White, White Law. Find Your People today, talking about why we want to have these professionals in our lives. Jamie's going to give us his backstory, talk all about White Law, how he created White Law, what's the whole purpose of what he's doing. We're going to talk Spartan. We might talk some hunting. We're going to go all over the place because my new friend, I love making new friends, especially really smart people. It makes a huge difference. Again, Jamie White's our guest today. White Law, Find Your People. This is The Tom Matz Show.
This segment of The Tom Matz Show is brought to you in part by The Source of Light and Power by band leader Archibald and broadcaster Mitch Anderson. Hear the sound that is endorsed by Odyssey headphones, linear tube audio, RME converters, and Peluso microphones at sourceoflightandpower.bandcamp.com. This is the Tom Matt Show.
The second segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Craig Stiles, Ameriprise Financial, your Ameriprise Financial advisor, and ours. And again, everybody, full disclosure, we utilize our sponsor services. It's going to be Jamie White, our guest today from White Law, or Craig Stiles from Ameriprise Financial, or Brock Fletcher. That's the whole point of bringing you our integrity to the 100% mark, because if I have a sponsor on my show and they're a subject matter expert like a Jamie White, this matters. Craig's the guy. Our Ameriprise Financial Advisor is Craig Stiles, and he can help you plan for the life you want well into the future with the right financial advisor. Life can be brilliant. Please call Craig 1-800-528-1355. Local number is 517-483-4893, or craig.stiles@ampf.com is his email. The easiest thing to do for all of our sponsors, you guys, go to our website, tommattshow.com. At the bottom of the homepage, our sponsors are there. They're click-through links. You can go right to their website. Boom, shakalaka, you're in, done deal. Okay? Stations that have carried us in the past, we've been on broadcast radio for quite a while. I mentioned stations that have carried us. Broadcast radio is kind of crazy. They're not unlike the podcast where you can always get the podcast. Broadcast radio, they come and go. It's all right. It's cool. I'm grateful to all the stations that have carried us, including all the stations on the Michigan Talk Network. WGHN in Grand Haven carried us for a long time. WGIM, the flagship of the Michigan Talk Network. 1240 AM in Lansing. WJRW 1340 AM in Grand Rapids. WKLQ 1490 Muskegon Whitehall, WYPV FM 94.5 Mackinac City, and of course, at 5 o'clock on Sundays, this is the big one for us, is the PBS affiliate at Michigan State University. We've been on WKAR News Talk AM 870 for, 5 years now, and we love them. They love us. We love the university. That's that. Again, back to thanking Craig Stiles for sponsoring segment 2. He created Deciduary Analytics, where we are making light of weighted decisions. Again, thanks to Steve and Ivy Gruber, owners of the Michigan Talk Network, for carrying us on the syndicated portion of their shows. Okay, back to our episode today. White Law, find your people. As I said in the first segment, if you missed that, you can go get the podcast, everybody. Doing an intro with Jamie White's first appearance on the radio program. Super excited to have him here with us, because I have wanted to fill this niche for a long, long time, and I found the guy, and he's going to help us solve issues just like Brock, just like Craig. That's the whole point, bringing you a value add into your life. So, Jamie, great talk about your journey through your higher ed and Army Reserves, and thank you for your service in the military, as a matter of fact. Your children, did you name your children off? I don't know if you said their names or not. You don't have to if you.
No, that's fine. My daughter's Haley. She's in Chicago. And then my 3 boys are in East Lansing High School, one about to graduate, and they're Derek, Alex, and Cameron. Great kids.
Kids love hearing their names on the radio.
Absolutely.
Cameron. I got it. Okay. Let's start the story. I mean, we could talk hunting. We could talk Spartans. We could talk football. We could talk basketball. We could talk all of it. But really, the point is White Law. When you graduated, because you were a non-traditional, which I completely appreciate, because I was the same thing, which means you were an older student, you were working full-time, you're going back to school at night. Congratulations on all that success. That takes grit and resiliency for sure. Talk about building your firm. How did the whole thing start? Let's start at the beginning and just kind of lay it out for the people about your story, because that's what I find fascinating, is your personal story. What drove all of it? Really,
early on in my life, I knew I wanted to be an attorney. We had an experience in 1977 where my family went to a barbecue park down in southern Michigan. And, this is back when interracial marriage was very unique, right? So we stood out like a sore thumb at the lake, and there was a group of drunk men who decided they were going to attack our family, and they did, and they beat my dad within an inch of his life. And ultimately there were some arrests made, but the jury let him go. And I was old enough at that point to know that something was wrong with that picture. My grandfather was the president of the NAACP in Jackson, Michigan for 25 years. reading and writing and research had always been something that I love to do. My family jokes that I read the newspaper at 4 years old. I don't remember that, but that's what they tell me. That experience definitely led me to look at the judicial system as something that was intriguing. I carried that passion throughout my educational career, and really the planning of the firm started right when I started law school. I knew I didn't want to work for anybody else, and I was willing to take a risk and at least try to see if it could happen. So I began planning and researching. I was at the prosecutor's office. I was watching all the other attorneys as they came in and out, getting to know them. I was teetering on doing the assistant prosecutor thing. I didn't want to, but it was important to have some level of security as far as the job was concerned. But on the day that I was supposed to sit down with Stuart Dunnings and talk about a job, I resigned. I just knew it wasn't anything that I wanted to do, and I respectfully resigned. So, what little money I could scrape together, Tom, we started out really, and I had a little A-frame place over in Lansing, and I started out in my attic, and this is before we had really good technology. This was quite a while ago. So it was like the great big hunker computers, and, it was challenging. And so, we did that. I would meet clients at Burger King. It was just kind of a hit and miss thing. It took quite a while to get some momentum going, but I had early success with trials. I was very comfortable in the trial setting. I won my first trial. I won my second trial, and continued to do that. And, that was very helpful because word went out through the community. And I was able to establish myself as somebody that could conduct a trial, which isn't the case with a lot of lawyers. And I don't mean any disrespect to any of them, but there's different skill sets. Like I could never do tax, right? But there's some people that could never do trial law. So I was able to fill that niche, and the word got out, and, one thing led to the other. And, before I knew it, I had a nice little office downtown, and, we continued on. When I say we, I had like a part-time law clerk at that time. Ultimately we got to a point where we could start to grow. And in large part, that growth has been due to technology. One thing the law has been short on, in large part, has been getting people up to speed with technology.
That is a really interesting story. And I didn't mean to cut you off at that point, but we are going to come up on break. So let me reset this thing, everybody. Jamie White's our guest today. White Law, Find Your People. We're going to continue this conversation about the trial. I find this very fascinating. And it's not only the law aspect of all of this, everybody, but the entrepreneurial aspect of it and the guts that it takes to build a business and know what you want to try to do and really do it. I mean, having meetings at Burger King, I can relate. I mean, that kind of stuff happens. So if you're going to be an entrepreneur, you got to follow the steps of the people who have done this before. That's why you want to pay attention to this episode. And there's going to be a lot more coming here. Again, Jamie White's here. White Law, Find Your People. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our Segment 2 sponsor, Craig Stiles of Ameriprise Financial. For more information on services provided by Craig, please visit ameripriseadvisors.com/Craig.Stiles or by calling 517-483-4893. You're tuned in to The Tom Matt Show.
Third segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Jamie White, our guest today. White Law, Find Your People. White Law is where justice meets compassion. White Law is your advocate in times of need. We are here. I am here. Jamie's here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Talking about the business aspects of White Law and all of these. You guys know when we have these sponsors come on our program that you know me, I've been doing this a long time. I want to bring you the best, the top, the people that you can trust. There's just like, make that call. Who are you going to call when you need somebody like this? Who are you going to call when you need, God forbid, drunk driving? Who are you going to call when you got financial issues like a Craig Stiles? Who are you going to call when you have the real estate stuff like what? Those are the people. And now you can listen to Jamie, because I've been wanting to fill this slot for a long time in the law area. It's really important. White Law is your advocate in times of need, and they are here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Contact White Law today, everybody, please. White Law PLLC.com or call 517-777-9785. So the other easiest ways to do this, you guys, is go to the website, TomMattShow.com. The banners are there. You can find and click through right to Jamie's site. You can also listen to David's Mad Dog Minutes that we produce up that are on our YouTube channel as well, because Jamie's helped sponsor those as well. And all his banners stuff is there. So there's plenty of spots on all of our social media and all of our outreach to reach White Law. You want to get to know this guy. That's why he's here, and that's why we're talking about this. Jamie, let's jump back into the business side of things with, you mentioned the word funnel, and I thought that was interesting because the business side of things of law is, well, any business and being an entrepreneur is complicated. So you've got a way to build this. Let's talk about the business side and what you do to get those economies of scale. What are some of the aspects that you do with your practice?
Yeah, I'm glad you brought this up. I think that when clients are looking for lawyers, it's important to find somebody that does have a business side to them. I always tell people that the practice of law is relatively easy, and the business of law is what's hard. And I think this pours over into other professional areas, in particular doctors, solo practitioner doctors or multifaceted practices still have the need for business organization. If you call a lawyer and you can't use a credit card and they, their email's goofy, that's probably a red flag that you should pay attention to. To the second part of your question, the future of law is very different than it was 25 years ago. It's cloud-based. We, more than 12 years ago, saw the writing on the wall and began working with cloud-based platforms. And now it's almost a necessity. Lawyers historically have been the last ones to grip technology. Judges clawed and scratched, trying to avoid some of the technology that was available. And COVID changed all that, because they were forced into a situation where, technology was necessary to communicate back and forth, have hearings, conferences, and so on. So technology has allowed us to do things that we couldn't have done before. Digital technology allows me to reach out to people all over the country, all over the world for that matter. And since we've been doing it for the last 12 years, Google has a very powerful algorithm, but it respects seniority to some degree. So we've had a great opportunity to use our technology to reach people all over the place. And we also have developed an incredible network of attorneys all over the country that we've worked with on numerous issues. Currently we're a premier partner with Morgan & Morgan. Everybody's probably heard of them. They're not real big in Michigan yet, but we have a partnership with them, and they are the largest personal injury firm in the world, certainly the country. So that's been a great tool that allows us to, as you said, grow the economies of scale. We don't have to hire, 100 lawyers or, and have a 5-story building, because we're able to network and work with people in a different capacity. And that gives us a real edge.
What happened during COVID for you guys, Jamie? I'm curious as to see how that changed, not just your firm, but in general, all of the aspects that go into the law industry, the law business. How did that affect your whole industry?
So it was mind-boggling for a lot of people. So it wasn't fun, but we were able to make the switch overnight because we have been using technology to communicate back and forth. We're cloud-based. I used to I still say it, that, if my building burns down and as long as nobody's in it, I'm fine. We pick right up where we left off. And so that was the case with COVID for us. But as an industry, there were a lot of people that were not prepared. There are still lawyers out there that, either use no computer or very rudimentary computers. So
really,
there was different. Yeah, there are, man. Believe it or not, they're walking around with paper calendars, and they're out there. It's an old school business. Guys hang around forever, and that created a log jam. In the courts for a long, long time. We would go stand in line for a pretrial that lasts 5 minutes. We'd be standing there for an hour. And then, the drive time. So COVID changed the industry dramatically because it forced the issue. The Supreme Court issued new rules that allowed for electronic signatures on pleadings. It allowed for hearings to happen. And, it really opened the door for otherwise reluctant judges and courts to doing some things uniquely as far as technology is concerned, to having to do so. And it stuck. After a year of it, people became accustomed to it, and it really has changed the practice of law. And it's really good for the clients because they were getting billed, Tom. Guys would travel to wherever, and then they sit in line for an hour.
Sure.
The clients getting billed for all that time, and it was unfair to them, in my opinion. And now, we have 10-minute hearings on Zoom. So it's been a great deal for the clients. It's definitely going to shake, COVID shook some people out that just were not willing to make the transition. So there was a little bit of a cleansing, but, now the law is talking aggressively about artificial intelligence and what role it can play. And I don't think any of these conversations would have happened but for the coronavirus.
That's going to be, that could be a whole show for us to talk about artificial intelligence and how that affects all of these things that you're talking about, the economies of scale, the technology. That's one of the reasons, everybody, you want to find somebody that's on the cutting edge of technology. You don't want to find a complete newbie, in my opinion. You wouldn't want to go to a heart surgeon who just graduated, no offense, no disrespect whatsoever. But I'd like to have a person like a Jamie White who is old enough but still young enough to know what's going on with all of these technologies. Am I saying that correctly, Jamie? Is that kind of a good lead?
I think that's a good way to phrase it.
Yeah, the analogy that goes with, having the skill sets, being able to get the bang for your buck, because everybody's trying to watch their money nowadays. As we know, we're in a tight economy, and that's understandable. You always want to have efficiencies when it comes to your life. Jamie, I'm going to carry this through because we're going to come up on break here in just a second here. Let me reset this for everybody. Jamie White's our guest today, everybody. Jamie's a brand new sponsor to the program and to David's Mad Dog Minutes, which we have been producing now for the last year or so. White Law, find your people. I have looked for a long time to find somebody, a subject matter expert, and I lucked out and found a great guy, Jamie White, who's also a true Spartan like we are. And so no offense to the blue people down there in Ann Arbor. No offense. Okay. We know the rivalry, but we know that the Big Ten is the Big Ten. We got big changes coming. So there's a lot of things that we can talk about in addition to not only the law business, but the hunter, non-hunter, the family stuff, entrepreneurial aspects, all of it. It's all going to be here. We're going to nail this thing, and it's going to be a lot of fun. You're going to want to check this out. We'll be right back here, everybody, with Jamie White, White Law, Find Your People. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our Segment 3 sponsor, White Law PLLC, where justice meets compassion. White Law is your advocate in times of need. We are here to listen, support, and fight for what you deserve. Contact White Law today for your free consultation. Visit us at whitelawpllc.com or call 517-777-9785. This is the Tom Matt Show.
Fourth segment of the Tom Matt Show is sponsored by Brock, my man. Selling team of Keller Williams just went to an event at the stadium downtown last weekend with my beautiful wife and met a bunch of people, took some people down there, met some of the ball players at some of the football players from Michigan State. It was great. Brock's another great Spartan, and he does great things. And again, full disclosure, everybody, we've utilized Brock's services. He helped us sell Big House Holt. He helped us buy, thank you, Mike Dedman, for buying Little House Lansing, where we're recording this episode today. You got to find all of these subject matter experts like Jamie White, like Brock, like Craig Stiles. They are trustworthy people, okay? Call Brock today, 517-853-6408, 853-6408, or the super secret cell phone number, which isn't so super secret. I just say that every time, 517-303-3262. That's 517-303-3262, or go online to kwsellingteam.com. You can also go to our website and find The Reality of Real Estate, where there's about, I don't even know, 20 plus episodes. Brock's got the bulk of them. That's where you can get questions answered. Same thing we're going to do with Jamie. You got questions, you want to go get it. You want to just listen to the man, get the podcast. Podcasts are awesome because they can transfer so much knowledge, and whenever you want it, and you can go back and you can just find where you dropped off. And it's a great technology. Go there, listen to our subject matter experts. Our website is designed so that you can easily navigate everything. Back to Brock again. Most agents start marketing your home after you list with them. He is the guy who invests money, like Jamie, like Craig. They invest money because they want to bring you the best services. They invest money ahead of time so that you know you're getting good services. That's the way it works. Again, Brock Fletcher, selling team of Keller Williams Realty. Trust is our middle name. Trust is our middle name with all of our sponsors and all of our good people that we bring in here. If you're listening to them on this radio program, you know they're solid. All right, back to our episode today with my new friend, Jamie White. I want to thank Dave DeMarco as well for putting us together. Jamie and I had met a while ago, but he's so busy and I'm so busy, it's hard to sometimes get these things to happen, but it did happen. And I want to thank Christine also for helping with Sandy, because everybody behind the scenes makes this stuff happen. We come on, we do video, we talk, and we got the easy part. It's the people behind the scenes doing all the heavy lift, right, Jamie? I mean, it's just like in your firm.
Absolutely.
Talk more about the firm. Isn't that true?
Yeah, it's absolutely true. I tell my support staff all the time that, they're the most important people in the building. I mean, lawyers honestly are a dime a dozen, and, I can plug and play lawyers all day long, but it's hard to find really good support staff that's invested in your mission statement. And I'm really lucky in that regard.
So let's talk about the firm specifically, on some of the things that you like to do with the firm and some of the specializations, because the law is a very wide area. I mean, talk about some of the things that you specialize in, and then you have your network of outsourced areas and firms that you could probably point people to. For example, maybe elder law or something like that, which I've talked about before, long time ago. Talk about the things that you specialize in with White Law.
Yeah. So for the first 10 years of my practice, I primarily at that point I was still growing. So I took a lot of things. It was more of a general practice, but in large part where I made my hay was in criminal defense, and I was trying cases, and we were, getting more and more clients, and, really establish ourselves in that way. Over the last 12 years, I've been shifting over to more of a civil litigation practice. We in a high level range, we do personal injury work. We've specialized in working with victims of sexual assault. I represented dozens of the women in the Larry Nassar matter, litigated that to completion, which a lot of the listeners are aware of. But we also were involved with United States Gymnastics. We're involved with the lawsuit involving the Boy Scouts of America. I'm in the process right now of hopefully passing a bill in January that's going to allow victims of the clergy to come out in Michigan and have access to the courts. So, we've enjoyed helping victims in that regard. Hopefully that's one of those areas where you hope that it goes away for the sake of society. But as we sit here today, we're still doing quite a bit of that. As far as networking is concerned, that's one thing that we're really proud of, because, we have relationships all over the country, certainly all over the state of Michigan. So really any practice area, there are a few exceptions, I suppose, but any practice area, we can usually get people to the right place. And then, our partners reciprocate back to us when a call comes in that maybe fits our wheelhouse a little bit better than theirs.
That's so interesting. And that's the way to do business nowadays, everybody. And we talked about this in the previous segment, where through economies of scale, you don't have to hire 100 people. You can have, and using technologies, if you're going to go with a firm, and it can be a law firm, it can be your doctor's office, it can be a lot of all of these. It's like with Craig Stiles with his Desideri Analytics. These professionals develop their techniques and their style and their applications to fit you the best way that you need to be fit. And so is that a good description, Jamie? I mean, it's just like, that's got to be the way that it is efficient for you.
Yeah, I agree. And, it's really about innovation and the willingness to innovate and not be stubborn about that. I think that, the law is transforming dramatically. We're seeing more do-it-yourself technology out there, and we're certainly, waiting on AI to surprise us all. But, the old days of going in and sitting down behind a guy's desk and going through that routine and getting a cup of coffee, I'm not saying that doesn't exist, but it certainly is becoming the exception as opposed to the rule. We Zoom and get people on conference calls all day long from all over the state of Michigan who otherwise would not, maybe they would come, maybe they wouldn't, but it just makes it easy for everybody. Innovation is important. I tell people when they're hiring on with me, if you're looking for a rule book where you can sit down and follow it every day, this is not the right place for you, because we're constantly looking for ways to make our services more effective. And that requires change, and it drives some people crazy. And for others, they breathe that. And so we look for the people that breathe it and are comfortable with change and like the challenge.
The word that came to my mind when you were saying that, Jamie, is team. Mm-hmm. It's just like our sports teams at MSU. If you can go in at halftime and you can adjust and you can maneuver and you can find the weaknesses and the strengths and build around those, is that a good analogy for you?
Absolutely. It's important, you're only as strong as your weakest link, right? And it only takes, one rotten apple to spoil the bunch. And I can go on and on and on. And I've made that mistake. I've kept people around that, probably shouldn't have been around. And, having a good team around you is critical. Another thing I always tell my staff is I don't want to be the smartest guy in the room. I want to be surrounded by the smartest people in the room. I think there's two ways to lead. You kind of lead as an everything. You're not, a dictator, or you're engaging people on a horizontal level and allowing them to make decisions and make mistakes. And the law is one of those areas that people are resistant to it, but there certainly are a number of firms all over the place that are looking to innovate and make services more affordable and more accessible to their clients.
It's interesting you said that about surrounding yourself with smart people. And I'm going to carry this through, Jamie, because we're going to come up on break here. And Jamie White's our guest today, everybody. White Law, find your people. I was talking to a student earlier this week at the gym, because I'm out there every day doing my thing. And we're talking about Jack Welch, and he was the head of General Electric. And he, in his book, Jack, which I would recommend to anybody out there, if you want to read a really good book about falling down, getting up, read that book by Jack. That's exactly what Jamie was just talking about with the team stuff. He talks about this constantly, where he wanted to surround himself with really important people, smart people. He was never too insecure to have smart people come into the game, right, Jamie? I mean, it's just like it's the way to go. Give me a 30-second rebuttal on that one.
Yeah, absolutely the way to go. I mean, I think that if you're surrounded by a bunch of yes men who are intimidated by you, you're going to continue to make mistakes. It's important to surround yourself with, Jack Welch is a great example. I read a book he wrote about, I don't know, maybe 15 years ago. I think it's called Winning. It's been a long time, but his story is incredible, and he is definitely humble, and I think that applies across the board. I think even if you looked at Elon Musk, you'll see that he surrounds himself with smart people.
That's another good one. And when we come back from break, everybody, so we'll go to break here. Let me reset this. Jamie White's our guest. White Law, find your people. I've read the Elon Musk book. I've read a lot of these biographies on these successful people, and that's where Jamie and I can have a lot of conversations with this, because their patterns and what they do is what you want to do to become successful. That's why you want to listen to this radio program, because we bring people in the house that can do these things. Again, White Law, find your people. Jamie White's here. You're listening to The Tom Matt Show.
Thank you again to our segment 4 sponsor, Brock Fletcher, real estate agent at the selling team with Keller Williams Realty. For more information on services provided by Brock, please call his personal cell phone at 517-303-3262 or by emailing Brock at kwsellingteam.com.
Welcome back, everybody. Welcome back to the Tom Matz Show, segment 5, carried on WKAR and on our podcast and whatever other radio station wants to pick this stuff up. Today, Jamie White's here. White Law, find your people. Been searching forever to find somebody that's diverse enough that can help us with this very complicated topic. So we found our guy, and we're thrilled. Not only is he a great attorney and he's got great support staff and he's got a great network, but he's a Spartan through and through, and that's a triple win for all of us. So it's all good. And again, as I said earlier, no offense to the Blue Machine down there in Ann Arbor, but because we're all in the same conference, and next year our conference gets like twice as big. So who knows with all of that. All right, remember our website, tommattshow.com. That's how you can connect with us with all our social media, all that kind of stuff, you guys. Find it all there, the TikTok, the Instagram, the Facebook, all of it. It's all there. It's easy to do. And, of course, YouTube. And you can just get the audio version of the podcast if you just want to listen to it. Download any of the services that you want, from iTunes to Google Play. We're on them all. I mean, we're on all of them. Jamie, let's do the plug segment for you. Talk about the firm, share your website, share your phone numbers, please, anything that's going on, and then we'll get into talking about legislation. Go right ahead, please.
Okay. Well, there's multiple ways you can find me. Jamie White, attorney, Google definitely will take you to me and some of the work that we've done over the course of the last decade. My website's White Law PLLC, P like Paul, LLC.com. And I can, our phone number is 517-316-1195. We have chat bots, and the whole deal. So, I'm not one big to talk about myself. You'll never see me on a billboard with my arms crossed and my hair blowing and a fan. That's just not the way that we market. So what I would just say is that, we are a very forward-thinking firm. We're very well networked all over the country, and we have a call center. So, we take every single call, and, we get, I won't say the crazy people, but we do get the 2:00 in the morning calls that maybe don't get returned. But for the most part, we return every call. And if we can't help you, we'll find somebody that can.
That's important to understand, everybody, because it's like with physicians or any of these professionals that are super busy. If they're super busy, that means they're really good. And so Jamie will take on any case, as he said, and if they can't handle it, if it's not their complete, wheelhouse, he'll pass it over to his vetted experts. And that's the whole thing about this network. And as we talked about AI and all of it, we'll talk about that in future episodes with Jamie. But the technology side of things is really important, and the network is critically important. So if you want one-stop shopping, give them a call. Go to the number. I'll give you the number here later, and I'll have that in the recap as well. Jamie, you wanted to talk about some really cutting-edge things that are coming up for you as far as legislation, and that's got to be it almost feels painful.
Yeah, that's one way to put it, Tom. Painful, man, especially in today's environment.
Oh my God.
But so we've, when I took the Nassar case, for example, it was turned down by a lot of people because the statute of limitations had run on any sort of civil remedy for the majority of the claims. And long story short, we did it, and we took the risk that Michigan State would make it right. Ultimately, they relied on the statute of limitations as a defense, and I could remember leaving mediation in Chicago and telling my associate, "Let's go change the law." And when we did that, we got with Senator O'Brien back in 2017, and drafted some legislation that was particular to victims of sexual abuse, and open what we call a window, which is a backwards look. It allows people to have access to the courts who otherwise would not have had access to the courts by creating a window of time. And that ultimately is what resolved that case. And, we did the same thing with the University of Michigan case. I represented several of those men in the Dr. Anderson debacle. And it was the same song and dance. We had to go to the legislative body and, apply some pressure through the threat of changing the law for those guys. And so currently, I have a bill in the House of Representatives being sponsored by Julie Brixey, and that is going to open a window for victims of, in large part, the Catholic Church. And I was raised Catholic. This is not a knock on the Catholic Church. It is what it is. We know what happened over the last 35 years and longer with many of the priests. And so we have a bill pending that will open a 1 to 2 year window. That piece is still being debated for victims of the church to come forward and have an opportunity to have access to the courts. So we're working with Kelly Cawthorn on that. We've been working on that for quite a while. And we met with leadership 2 weeks ago, and it looks like, we're going to get something done in January. And, I suspect I'll be litigating those cases for the next 2 to 3 years. But we getting to know some of these men, Tom, man, it's what they went through. They remember the smells. Some of them have rebounded and some of them are just, not in a good place. But, we're just trying to get them access to the courts. And I think a lot of the opponents to what we're doing say, well, that's not fair. How is somebody supposed to defend themselves? It was so long ago. There's no evidence. And, I tell them, look, we're not asking for a guilty verdict. We just want access to the courts. You could still ask a judge to throw it out if there's no evidence. We just want the door open. So we're excited about that. We're hoping to help a lot of people through that process. The church has gone through a lot in regards to this issue, but it has forced them to make some changes. And I think they have, in large part, rectified what was a plague in their organization.
I got to take a pause here because one of the biggest topics, Jamie White's my guest today, everybody, White Law, Find Your People. One of the biggest topics on my radio program has always been mental health. And I'm a mental health advocate. I've been through mental health treatments myself, getting through my alcohol problems that I've been alcohol free for over 25 years now. And so I get all of this, and I do a lot of coaching with this kind of mental aspect with people, Jamie. And I'll tell you what, almost 100% of the time when I'm working with people, we got to step it back. I call it my prime objective in finding the goals. But going back through people's mental health, it's something that occurred when they were kids. And I've read and I've interviewed and I've studied this very, very thoroughly. There is so much documented evidence that things that occurred in people's past and their childhoods that are repressed can lead to all kinds of issues as an adult. And until you come to a resolution with those issues, you can never have strong mental health. So what you're doing, I applaud you for reopening these things and helping these people, because these are very, very, very challenging situations. And people probably don't want to talk about it because of the shame that goes along with it. And mental health advocacy in itself, people are afraid of just talking about their own mental health, and they don't realize that it all occurred back then. Until you get to the resolution, you're going to have the problem. Can you comment on that, please?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. It's a situation where you have people who, data shows us that at least when it comes to sex abuse, the vast majority of these perpetrators were perpetrated on themselves, as a young person and never brought that to any resolution, didn't tell people for obvious reasons. Especially men, and I don't want to be gender biased, but I think having worked with hundreds of men, it's more challenging for them. It's challenging for everybody, but it's more challenging for them to tell anybody or bring it to surface, whether it's through therapy or litigation or whatever it is, or just good old fashioned family love. So, I say your point about mental health is so on point, Tom. We gave up on providing mental health back in the 80s. Governor Engler the entire legislature slashed the budget for mental health hospitals and mental health providers. And we basically just displaced those people into prisons. There's 3 types of people in prisons. You have the addicts, you have the greedy people, and then you have mental health right? I mean, even maybe they're not mentally insane, but if you go out and do certain things, by definition, you got some mental health issues. And those areas often overlap, but the mental health issue is something that, we have disregarded as a society for a long time. And I think we're seeing that play out a little bit, through some of these school shootings and other crazy stories that, we hear about almost on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
There was a time when you had a place to take a young person who was struggling. Now, there's a 24-hour hold, they get a quick evaluation and they're often just released back into the community. So I just couldn't agree with you more on the mental health issue. And yes, these victims suffer damages that I can't comprehend. And the thing about the clergy, Tom, that makes it even more difficult than the actual abuse is the conflict of thought processes they have, because these were often young men, 12, 13 years old, sometimes a little bit younger. And they're told, they were told these men are God, right? These men are God. And that's a tough thing to reconcile.
We have so much to talk about with Jamie White. Jamie White's our guest today, everybody. If you need to get a hold of White Law, call 517-777-9785. Jamie, I appreciate you coming on for your first effort here with our show. It's different radio. It's long form radio. And this is what we're going to do. We're going to share stories. Thank you so much for taking the time. I know you're super busy, but these are very important topics, and I appreciate you very, very much. Thank you so much for coming on.
Yeah, thanks for having me, Tom. It was a lot of fun.
If our show fits your business or group's mission, everybody, we want to be of service to you through our guests, just like a Jamie White at White Law. Please remember, before you can share love with others, you must love yourself first. This is why Jamie White does what he does. I want to thank Jamie White, Sandy, Craig, Brock, all of you guys out there. Alyssa Guadani, Samantha Medved, our former students. We'll talk to you next weekend, everybody. Have a great week. Go out and ignite your life. Good day now. Before I forget, I want to thank Mitch Anderson, you the man. Tom Matt Show's production of Boomers Rock Media. We want to bring your story to life. We are out.
The Tom Matt Show is produced by Mitch Anderson of Black Circle Studios. Original music from the Source of Light and Power by the Ark of All.